Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to host Natalia Bakaeva. She's CEO and co founder of ARKI. I had a chance to briefly meet her at Blueprint Conference, where she was presenting as part of Suffix Boost program startup presentations, and I was very inspired by what she's building. And I thought it would be great to have her on the show. So, thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Natalia, take us back to your teenage days till this date. What would be your career highlights?
Some people, when they hear my story, they think that my career highlight was when I was 18 years old and I tried to first time use the computer for my project in university. And my professors failed me because I was supposed to draw it by hand. And they sent me to do it again in the summer and redo the entire project from scratch. And I think some people still relate this to what I do today, many, many years after.
Oh, that's interesting. In from your college when you were graduating, what was one thing that you were looking forward to when you start working? What kind of projects that you're passionate about?
Yeah, great question. So I think that my goal was always to start my own architecture firm. I was dreaming about it since I was 16 years old. That's when I started architecture school. I first started thinking about architecture when I was 15, actually, and then got admitted when I was 16. Since then, my entire career been always around architecture, even the odd jobs that I've done in the summer, during holidays, sometimes even after hours. It's been always in architecture. I never done taken any other jobs, which is some people find it fascinating. At the same time, when I finally reached that point where I was able to start my architecture firm, which was several years ago, I realized that I was maybe hit with disappointment or it was not what I was expecting. And mainly it's because I've been always obsessed with products and productizing the architecture services or product, just building products and the idea of building something that a lot of people can use and it can have impact on life of a lot of architects or professionals at scale. And when you start an architecture firm, that notion of product or notion of scale is not there because there are only so many hours in a day and you eventually end up just working all the time. And the only way you can scale is to hire more people, take on more projects, and essentially sell more hours, which was something that I was really struggling with. And I felt like I want to try something that is more scalable at large. It can be international. People all around the world can use it. And that's how we end up founding ARKI.
And looking back, if what was something that they don't teach about running an architecture business in school, but you had to learn and figure out?
So many things. We can talk about this topic for hours. And recently, also in the recent years, I also had a privilege of teaching at the university myself. Bachelor of Interior Design, first, second, and third year. And still to today's date, I believe there are a lot of gaps in practice that we see because there are some things that we're not taught in architecture school. Simply starting with the lack of budget or idea of that certain things cost a lot or sometimes less. And designing this kind of vacuum where no clients, no constraints exist. And I know why this is being done because the university is trying to promote creativity. They're trying to let students spread their wings. But at the same time, I feel it is taken to such an extreme that it becomes almost an impediment to the future career because when students graduate and they hit with the reality, it's becoming extremely challenging to then deal with real deadlines, deal with clients, budgets, regulations, zoning requirements, and other aspects of what profession truly is. I think in my experience as well, presenting and being able to communicate your ideas clearly, precisely, sometimes not to the room full of architects, but maybe to the room full of people who are non-architects, is not something that we been taught, and that's something that I've been learning more later in my studies during my master's and postgraduate studies. And I'm still learning every day how to communicate clearly and concisely. We always joke about it, like how do you explain it to 5-year-old? And even if the concept is extremely complicated and it might be very in-depth R&D, you should be able still to deliver this pitch to either your grandmother or to someone who is a child. So those, I think, are the gaps. And My favorite one to summarize it is the gap in technology. I think that when we were studying in architecture school, everything that I learned about technology, I learned myself through YouTube, taking, after hours courses, just following the tutorials, testing it, using it on my projects in university. Even when they failed me, I still continue using Revit, 3ds Max, V-Ray. I was obsessed with technology always. And I think that it's becoming better today. I see architectural students, they write code, they are more able to work in the interoperability, so kind of transferring between different pieces of software. But at the same time, I still think that there are gaps and there are places and room to be improved.
Got it. I'm kind of curious to know running farm, you're sometimes difficult to scale because you're scaling based on people and training them, and the profit margin is also dependent on how the business cycle and billing works in architecture. What would be your version of AI native design firm? Like, how does it look like?
Great question. I think about it a lot because what we do today, it's a AI enablement for architecture firms, and I'm an architect, so naturally I am thinking if I would started this architecture firm with superpowers, what this looks like. And I think that it's not only about technology, only about AI automation. I think it's a comprehensive set of factors. And I think that it's coming both on design side, technical side, and the business side. So I would never think about this kind of hero architecture firm as just a set of tools. To me, it's running a tight business practices, simply following, project management type of style of the software, which a lot of architecture firms, majority of the architecture firms not using today, and making sure that we are very stringent with budgets and we tracking everything. That's another thing that I feel like conventional architecture firms struggle a lot. KPIs, OKRs, they're not part of the lingo day to day. And I think that's something that I would like to implement if I ever do that again or continue doing that. And in terms of tech stack, I think testing new tools, looking around and kind of seeing what else is out there, being open to change and being open to move fast and, test a lot of, sometimes things that might feel a little scary. But I think that the way innovation is moving today and the way the speed of development that's happening, whether we're talking about AI or just technology in general, it's becoming very hard to ignore. And I think the people who are trying to ignore it, they will be putting themselves into a disadvantageous position over the long term. And I think that looking at your tech stack, analyzing it, talking to AI advisors or any of the CTO level consultants if needed, if this expertise is required, analyzing your tech stack and then making sure that interoperability is top of mind and that every piece of that puzzle comes together nicely, and whether you can use automation or some pieces need to be first tested and then automated, but you constantly have to monitor the tech stack. And I think out of those three components, that's where truly that supercharged practice could be built, in my opinion.
Yeah, like when you were sharing it, it immediately made me think about like in computer, like software development projects, it's very common to have like Trello or Asana boards and tracking and stand up with clear OKRs, clear specs. Sometimes in practices, we have a different way of operations, like, okay, whatever it takes, even if late nights, doing the
Yep.
renders, publish it.
And I think it's coming from the nature of the profession, right? Architects typically are very driven. They love what they do, and people who go through architecture school of 6, 7, 8, sometimes even more years, and they stay in the profession. These are the people who are extremely dedicated to their craft, and sometimes that dedication hurts us, unfortunately. And I've been through that. I've been through that myself, through that experience. And I think that we just need to recognize it. We need to tame our ego a little bit and just come to a conclusion that sometimes running projects with emails is not effective.
You went to Antler and also Suffolk. Curious to know, like, if we were to go back to early days of ARKI, how were you doing the customer research, discovery, your first customer story?
Yeah, great question. So when Mehdi and I met, Mehdi is our CTO. He's coming from software engineering and AI background. Mehdi was part of initial Tableau team when they got acquired by Salesforce. So we have a benefit of tapping into best software practices from the leading companies in the world. And that's how we run ARKI, because we see that there are a lot of software in our industry that's built by either architects or engineers who are, again, passionate and they want to solve some problems. But sometimes those tools, they're lacking best software engineering practices. Maybe they're not optimized, maybe they're slow, clunky, or user experience is subpar, and that's something that we are doing way better at ARKI. At the first days at Antler, when we met with Mehdi, my goal was to get him as obsessed about the problem as I was. And because I'm coming from the industry, I had a privilege of having Rolodex of people that we can talk to. And we built a hypothesis that architectural and engineering firms sit on a massive data set that they're currently not monetizing. And there is a huge opportunity by tapping into this data set to save time, money, increase quality of work, increase satisfaction of the employees. And with this hypothesis, we interviewed over 100 architects, engineers, interior designers, urban designers, fabricators, master planners, anyone who would speak with us essentially at that point. It was a very short period of time when we were able to when we had this time allocated to conduct these interviews. And when we were talking to these guys, we never, so we call let the witness. We never told them what we were thinking. We never told them what we were building. Our questions were always very high level. What is the worst part of your day? When was the last time when you struggled to find an answer? When was the last time when you experienced a problem with your tech stack? Why did you quit your last job in architecture or engineering? And funny enough, somewhere in the middle or towards the end of the conversation, we would hear this breaking point. Sometimes people would swear, they really would open up. Sometimes they would laugh and they say, I came to this job because they told me everything is organized and well run. And then I realized somewhere midway through my probation that, it's an absolute mess. No one can find anything. No one knows where information is stored, what was this project, what's the number, how to find information, what are our standards. And essentially, we would hear the story again and again, and some people would quit. Some of them would even change industries. And when Mehdi heard those stories, he was very convinced that there's a big, big gap and big, big problem exists. And again, coming from software engineering, I think there was a bit of a shock that he experienced because things like GitHub Copilot and other tools exist for a very long time. So no one in software engineering even thinks about, rewriting the code that was written and it's all open source and you can tap into it. And here we were essentially going through exactly the same problem, but it's absolutely siloed and absolutely locked, and that data is dead in the current setup. So that was the early days. Mehdi was kind of exposed to this new world and this new industry. And that's how we started conceptualizing building ARKI. We got 6 firms to commit and start working with us even before we had product, which I think, again, shows you how big this problem is and how much there's how much thirst for innovation there is, because firms are just looking to know what's next. What is this next chapter of technology or automation that they're going to tap into? So 6 firms, they've been working with us for months, and some of them still work with us, which is extremely satisfying. And they're happy customers. They expand in their accounts, and they continue introducing us to new customers, which is fantastic. And essentially, we would meet with those teams every week or every 2 weeks. We conceptualize the product ourselves, but we would get their feedback. And then with that feedback, with a lot of testing, with a lot of, debugging and things breaking in the most random moments, we stabilize the software and we release it to the market. And now we're working with over 30 firms and keep growing and doubling, months over months, the amount of users that we have.
You made it sound like very easy that, oh, we interviewed 100 people, we got 6 beta testers before we had a product. If we can do a bit deeper dive, like a lot of firms sometimes are getting bombarded with startups want to do a pilot or things like that. So how do you stand out among the crowd, and What are the common objections they have? So how does it work?
This is an excellent question, and I have a lot to share about that. So I think that, first of all, that's very true. We know that there are companies who would be calling every single employee in the company just to try to get and to sell them their product, which is definitely not our methods. But at the same time, we see that companies are bombarded by a lot of offers, and they are confused, and they are trying to understand what they should do. Should they wait? Should they partner with some of them? Should they wait till Autodesk buys all the startups and this becomes part of the just the main offering? I hear a lot of those opinions every day because we meet with new customers, I don't know, 6 to 10 firms every day. And essentially there is no one answer to this question. I think that the challenge that firms are facing, that there is no AI mandate or there is no AI strategy for 1, 5, 10 years. And if the firms have their AI strategy, then it is easier for them to see where, let's say, ARKI would fit, right, in which part of the tech stack, because they have clear goals set up. So that becomes easier for us to work with those firms because they already started. They've done their homework, let's say. And the next step is identifying the workflows, identifying the problems. When I meet with the new firm, I never talk about ARKI. I always talk about the problems that they have and what they experienced so far, what tools they've been using so far, and what are the things they observed, what are the things that they struggle with. And then we try to map their existing workflows to the offering that we have today. And there are always going to be gaps because our workflows in this industry are so extremely complicated that we can't expect that everything is going to be now magically solved with AI or with technology. But at the same time, I think it's for them understanding what they're trying to get out of it, making sure that they're comfortable working with the team, because at the end of the day, if you partner with startup, you're going to be working with founders very closely, you're going to be working with early team, and sometimes it's just finding to work with the right people who can move at your speed, who can listen and integrate things that are important to you, if possible. Of course, that's what we do for our customers. If that's something that's already on our roadmap, that's something that's been flagged by others before, if someone joins us and they say, Natalia, this is absolutely critical for our team to continue working effectively, we will move this item in the roadmap closer. So we will just help this team to get to where they need to be. And my advice to those teams, at the end of the day, you need to understand what are your KPIs, back to KPIs. What are the ways you're going to measure the success of, let's say you're doing onboarding or you're buying a tool? What are the metrics or what are the rubrics that you're going to be measuring it? Is it a ROI? Is it time saved? Is it satisfaction of your employees? And then with that goal in mind, you need to approach those startups. A lot of times I see companies that have no time to take leadership on this, and then we will have to drive this conversation. But at the same time, we are still an external party. Internally, they need to set up those goals and they need to make sure that they're adhering to those metrics, that at the end of the day, they can tell whether they were successful in this process or not.
God, it feels like you have cracked the art of B2B communication, sales. And I'm wondering, a lot of architects or engineers who start products in our industry, they have to learn about product thinking, prioritization, how to make a no-brainer offer that makes the sales. So what are the things you had to learn along the way? What were your bottlenecks if you look back in your journey of ARKI?
First of all, I think that this is a very important point that you're making, because at the end of the day, the training that architects, engineers go through is very different. There's unfortunately, in my opinion, lack of the business mindset, or we sometimes in this industry feel that selling something is malicious or bad, which I think that as an architect, you should be able to get a buy-in on your design regardless. So it is part of selling it. So I see nothing wrong with it. And my journey, I think what I learned is you have to listen to feedback. you have to make sure that you build the bridge of communication with your users or your customers. But in the same time, first of all, we always ask 5 whys if they tell us about the need, a button, feature. And second of all, not always what people tell you is that what they truly need. Sometimes if you try to uncover what is the underlying concern there, it's not always what they tell you that is. So being able to almost go into this mode of investigator, that's something that I didn't expect that's going to be part of this process, right? You need to be very critical. You need to be ruthless in your prioritization, as you said. And essentially, at the end of the day, you need to be driving this conversation. It's your product, it's your vision. You're responsible for making it successful and making your team successful and making your users successful as well. So listening to the feedback is crucial, but at the same time, how you digest this feedback, how you turn it into features, how you turn it into value and ROI for your customers, that's something that we are learning every day, and we're improving the way we do things every day.
There's so much knowledge shared around the process and operations. Can you walk us through how ARKI works? What time in the project journey one should consider adopting ARKI, and how does it solve the problem?
Yeah, for sure. I would be happy to. So I'm gonna just go to the our website, getarki.com, which you're all welcome to visit after this. So typically we see firms filing the projects starting at 50% design development, and they can go all the way to issue for construction set of drawings when everything been cleared out. The benefit of using ARKI is that you can record the evolution of a detail, and essentially if you start uploading details very early, then you will be able to upload them again when they are more developed, like you can see here on the screen. And essentially the software is intelligent enough to keep the history of the detail and file it under the same parent detail, so it will not clutter your search. So we can today upload information from Revit, but at the same time, if you have PDFs and AutoCAD, we are able to capture that as well. We are not focusing on details only. We are actually now covering the plan blocks and sections as well. We started with details because this is the most common language that we see in architecture. But at the same time, we now have firms who are working, let's say, in residential construction, who have a lot of unit layouts. We have firms who work in the Olympic pool and other sporting facilities. They have a lot of R&D spent on things like change rooms and other blocks. So we file those design blocks, and sometimes we file part of sections if required. The main difference with ARKI, we are able to identify and find details that are poorly annotated as well, because we are looking at each piece of information with about 6 dimensions, which means that we are looking at the metadata, we are looking at the annotations, where it came from, and with our multimodal LLM, we are looking at the detail visually as well. So if something is not labeled, but it is on a drawing, we will be able to find it. Like you can see here, this grab bar, there is no annotation of grab bar on this drawing, but ARKI is still able to retrieve it. One other thing that we do very differently from others, we are able to file your 3D geometry as well. So if the detail is a combination of 2D drawing and 3D drawing, from Revit, we are able to bring this detail for the new project. The way we do it, I would be happy to share. You can book a demo with us on our website, and I can walk you through this process. Another thing that is very helpful for our users is compare details. And here you can essentially bring details in different scales from different Revit files and different Revit versions and compare them on ARKI pretty seamlessly before making a decision which one you would like to use today.
Amazing. If I were to ask, what has been the most challenging feature to develop in terms of technical implementation, what would that be?
I think that so far, the biggest push, which is absolutely innovative, and we spend a lot of time and R&D on it, and it's actually a good time we're talking right now because it has been just released and our customers are getting access to it today. We figure out a way, thank you, we figure out a way to leverage LLM to categorize all the details into 51. Those collections are essentially folders of information, so accessibility, doors, windows, fire-rated assemblies, interior assemblies, exterior assemblies, which we came up with as a proprietary list, but we used master format and uniformat to essentially blend them in and use it as a foundation to come up with those categories. So what will happen if you take 100 projects, you mine them and upload them to ARKI, by the time you access your data set, it's all been already categorized with our AI system on the back end. So zero manual time, zero downtime. We're saving between 6 to 12 months of time for BIM coordinators with this feature alone. And we're just rolling it out. And so far, our customers call it magic. Natalia will apply her magic and things just will categorize automatically. So, that's a very nice compliment for us to hear. We want to deliver value to them and make sure that our customers are happy.
That's so cool. I was about to ask, like, when you were saying the 51 categories, because that and ontology development requires also like domain knowledge. Okay, are we covering all the possible edge cases of the
Yeah.
whole spectrum of what we will receive in future? So making those decisions is also crucial.
And to be transparent in this process, we always adhere to framework human in the loop. We categorize all the data, 100% of it, but we don't want them to rely on the AI and system only. So we encourage our users to go ahead and review those AI generated collections. And if there are any elements that belong to, let's say, a different collection, we give them an opportunity to change which collection this belongs to so they can tweak some of that data. And we don't think that they should be 100% relying on AI only.
What has been your most proudest moment?
I think that recently we've done 2 case studies with 2 of the firms. One of them been around with us for over a year, and they actually were one of the first firms who joined us, and that was even pre-product. And the second one was the opposite, a very recent that joined us just a couple of months ago. So for the first one, it's the firm in Tennessee called Studio 906. We done a comprehensive case study with them. We interviewed all of the ARKI users on their team, and we essentially wrote a comprehensive summary of the work that they've been doing, the efficiencies that they've been seeing, and with all the data KPIs. Again, you see I'm obsessed about numbers. And you can go ahead and read this on our website and see the projects that they used it on. And then very encouraging to see that someone who joined us recently is the firm called JH3. They're here in Toronto, where I'm based. Prominent firm. A lot of other architectural firms look up to them because they do fantastic projects, very creative design, very inspiring. And they've been with us only a few months, and they already use ARKI to create 2 new tower projects and submit them to the city. When we were doing a kind of like a catch-up meeting, and they told me about that a few weeks ago. It's been a extremely satisfying aha moment where in a very short time they're able to leverage this platform to full potential.
It's a great validation that like it's impacting and creating value. If we were to do anything differently, if you were to restart the journey of ARKI, what would that be?
I think one thing that I now go back to and think about is creating early prototypes and early mockups. Now with tools like Lovable, I am able to build myself things that I imagine or parts of the product that could be presented to customers or potential customers for them to kind of wrap their head around and get some feedback from them. So I think my advice would be for those who are thinking about starting a company, thinking about building products, start prototyping as soon as you can. Now, there is no excuse not to prototype. There are so many great platforms out there that you can use. I mean, Lovable is one of them. There are many, many others that you can leverage, even Figma Make and comparable software tools. And essentially get out there, talk to your potential customers, show them prototypes, even if they're not working, even if half of it is duct tape. Get out there and get feedback, get it in front of the real users. If you can, give it to them so they can use it. And we always think about it as, if your product does not break when you give it to customers, you ship too late. So you always want to give it to them when it's still kind of half baked, within the reason, of course. But you want to be in this agile, always evolving process, because that's essentially the nature of a startup. So I think what I would do differently, I would start prototyping on day one, and I would come to those discovery calls. Discovery calls would be still same, but I would do a follow-up call already with a kind of prototype of what I'm thinking, and something that they can click on, something that they can use, and I can walk them through this journey. I would do it way sooner.
We have a rapid fire. You have less than 10 seconds to answer, and you have to keep it super, super brief. All right.
Okay.
So, who's your favorite architect?
Renzo Piano.
Your favorite restaurant?
It's the sushi restaurant in Mexico City. I don't remember the name of it.
A city which is in your travel bucket list?
Bogota, Colombia.
Your favorite architecture building?
I like so many. Let's go with the Boston City Hall.
What is the best piece of advice you have received till date?
That's a hard one. I think about building things that don't scale. It's not direct advice to me, but that's what I use almost every day.
Your favorite movie?
My favorite movie. That's a very hard question. Let's go with Matrix.
3 words your co-founder would describe you as.
Intelligent, resilient, and detail-oriented.
What would be your piece of advice to an 18-year-old architecture student?
Make sure you know how to sell, make sure you know business, make sure you know how to speak to a client, because these are going to be the most valuable skills you will learn.
For people listening, how can they support you in your journey?
Yeah, we are very active on LinkedIn, so you can follow me on LinkedIn to see updates. It's just Natalia Bakaeva, my first name and last name. Also, we have ARKI page on LinkedIn as well. We post a lot about events, product. You can book a demo with us at getarki.com. There's a direct link there to submit a request. And also, we are on Instagram as well, arki.digital, and just come say hi, send me an email, natalia@arki.com, and I would be happy to chat.
Awesome. I have one last one. It's 2028 December. What's the version of ARKI we are looking at?
Is the AI teammate that will bring the project to 30% before it starts.
That's a great one. Thanks a lot, Natalia, for sharing your story and the amazing product you're building. Can't wait to see how you're growing in this journey.
Thank you so much for having me. Very creative questions. I'm very impressed with your line of questioning. So thank you for that. And I'm looking forward to see the episode online. Cheers.